still hear me. I,
Good evening and welcome once again to another edition of Shaking It Up. I'm here today with a brand new panel of people, except for my assistant Moses Percy, who has been with me from the start. So we just want to welcome everybody, our viewers that are watching and those that are in-house who are here with us today. We're going to go around and everybody can introduce themselves. And then we're going to get started with our second round of love and relationship. But before we get started, let's bow our heads for a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you again for this opportunity to come together to talk about your love and your saving grace for us. Lord, we ask now that you would be in our minds and our hearts. Let none of us be seen but you and us. We ask these and many other blessings in your precious name. Amen. Again, I'm your host, Sherry McDonald.
My name is Sam Pascal.
my name is Xavier Thomas.
My name is Kareem Williams.
And I am Moses Percy.
Wonderful. Okay. Last time we were together, we had some discoveries. We talked about what love was. We talked about the CCD, as I'll call it, the commitment, the communication, and the dedication. We call those our principles. And what's in the relationship of that there's no relationship without God. We also talked about what it was that we discover when we train our eyes to the types of people that we should be involved with, what that looks like. We also talked about parents training their kids from when they're small, what it looks like, what love looks like to a child and how they grow and develop as time goes on, which is where we first learn to know what love is. The practice, the art of communication. We talked about that, how important that was, that no relationship really stands the test of time unless there is communication. We brushed up on the 5 love languages, and we talked about in our pre-show. Now, last time in our pre-show, we didn't talk about it in our last show, but we were discussing what it is, the difference between surrender and submit. And this time around, I want us to take a look at that. And what does that look like? And I want to spend a little bit of time there, but I want to start with something that we talked about today in our pre-show. We're going to let Mr. Moses Percy take us into that because it was an excellent topic, and I don't want us to miss it. I think that we should hit that first and hit it hard.
I'm guessing referring to the parents being
Yes.
involved in the choice of mate.
Right, that's correct.
So we were discussing in the pre-show a question that was brought to me this week. And the question was, what is wrong or why don't we allow our parents to choose our mate, our husband or wife? So that is a question I will throw back out to the audience here. Is there an issue with that? If there's not, okay. If there is, okay, expound either way. Would you let your mother or father choose your mate? And if your mother or father is no longer with us, the next closest elder parental guardian, whether it's your uncle or aunt or what have you.
I think nah, because it's kind of like they're not in a relationship from that, like to be point blank period. I get the point, like I might bring this person around and it's like I might get your opinion, like, oh, what you think, like how do you like their attitude, or do you think, like, what do you think about their job or like their goals? But like, you know, just thinking of like the few perspectives I'm looking at. I'm not gonna be like, you think she look pretty? Like, I don't care if you think she look pretty. I know she look pretty. So it's like certain things that I might get someone else's opinion on, my guardian or my parent. Like, I even asked my mom, like, you think that's okay? Like, that they do this? And she's like, no, but it's you. So that's kind of where
Why
I
are you
come
asking
from.
them, though?
Well, I don't got as much experience points as everybody here. You know what I'm saying? So some things I might know, not I'm still a little ignorant about that some people do. I don't know everything in like relationship wise. So I've asked older people like, you think it's okay if this person does this? And they're like, yeah. They tell me X Y Z, and I'm like, okay. And I go back to myself and think like, let me put my morals lined up next to it, and I'm thinking like, yeah, I gotta agree, this isn't okay, or yeah, it's not that bad, even though that person came and told me it was, or it was this, still giving my personal opinion about it.
Okay, as for me, I wouldn't want my parents to pick my relationship. I'm sorry. I think that I think I came up in a time where your parents did pick who you should like date on a regular basis, like if you wanted to go out. But as far as marriage, I'm not in agreement with that one. I think that it takes away uh, it takes away from the relationship of the person really getting to know a person for themselves. They are the person is being chosen for them by their parents, and then they're asked to go out with this person, and then if you like them, then you're married. And sometimes in the Bible time, it wasn't even if you liked them. It was, this is who I want you to marry, and that's that. So in my opinion, no.
I'm gonna go with a no as well. My taste is not the same as my mother's taste, so definitely not.
Looks.
Looks not the same. I mean, although that's my mom and she gave birth to me, but we're still two different people at the same time. So my taste won't be the same as hers.
Wouldn't your mom kind of, sort of know your taste?
I mean, I guess. I mean, I don't think she would know me as a person, but I don't think she would know like who I like. Unless, I would sit down and talk to her and tell her, well, Mom, I like this person and da 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 da. But other than that, no, I don't think that, you can ask your parents certain things, like what Kareem was saying, oh my, is she pretty? Do you like her? Little things like that. But me as far as her saying, "Hey, this is who I want you to be with long term,"
So that's interesting. So listening to roughly here, it's we think enough and know enough about our parents where we want their opinion on the individual. but we don't want them to make the final decision for the individual. So my mind wonders, well, then why do we want any opinion from our parents? What is the purpose of getting that opinion from our parents?
The types of cars that I'm interested in, but I'm not asking you to pick my car. This is just a matter of discussion, you know. So what do you think of this person? Or what do you think? She came home, she hung out with us for a few days. You know, what are your thoughts?
So I'm going to speak for me real quick. I'm going to throw it out this way. To me, the purpose of asking a question is could be multiple things. It could be just for informational, but it's usually to get a correct answer, and that the use of that answer applied to your person, so you can avoid making a mistake. If you're asking me about a car, and you're asking me about whatever for that person, you want my opinion, so now you can have information, so you can know what decision to make, so you won't make a mistake. So in my mind, it's thinking, well, I get what you're saying. We have one life. We make many decisions. The Lord gave us the power of choice. And that choice is ultimately left up to us to serve Him, for mate, or whatever else. But I think what's happening, and this is just food for thought, I think what's happening is there is something there, and I don't have the answer for this. There is something there where I think Satan has successfully removed something very valuable from us, where we discount it. And what I mean by that is, currently, today, the practice is exactly that. We may get our opinion or we may not from our parents, before, after, or while our emotions are already in it and we're just doing it as formality. But it stands to reason roughly a little bit over 50% of marriages fail of us choosing by ourselves. Over 50%. So, and you made a good point in the pre-show, a wonderful good point about basketball player, 50%, that's good odds. But in every place else, a medicine, if you put into your body, whether it's investing, 50% odds is over 50% of odds of losing. Not very good odds. So I'm wondering, should we at least either choose the mate for our child or bring persons to them that they can choose from for dates?
I think that's still just like in being arranged marriage. If you're like basically taking a poll, you know what I'm saying, a survey on what you think your child would like or what you think your child should marry. And I think at a certain age, when you become an adult, it should be your choice to pick who you're going to marry, who you're going to be with. Because remember, if you marry this person is who you're going to be with for the rest of your life. Through thick and thin, sickness and health, all of that. So if I can't be like solely involved in who I choose to marry,
So let me get deep on that real quick. I'm gonna get back to you. Is that your purse?
yeah.
Could you put it on the table? It's a beautiful purse. No, let's take it off. Take it. Yeah. Now, I believe I might have some dice or something we can use. If I roll a dice and there's over a 50% chance that I hit on a certain number, would you give me that person everything in it?
No. It's not up to grabs. I'm not giving it to you so that I can roll the dice and lose that. No, it's a gamble.
Correct. So that's my point. That's what I'm trying to get in my head. Where we stand right now in society, without parental involvement, it's more a touch over 50% that's a gamble we're going to lose out. Not win, but lose out. It's going to fail. And when I mean it fail, I haven't been divorced. But from what I hear, I've been in arguments with the wife. But from what I hear, it is hardly amicable. It's gut-wrenching. It's emotional. It's something you don't want to experience from an unpleasant side. So you didn't want to take that chance with your purse, but you would take that chance in choosing a life mate. That's why I find that interesting.
But you know what though? She already has the purse. You know what I mean? So in that example, with all due respect, it's somewhat flawed because we're talking about something that she already owns, something that she's already in a relationship with, if you will, right? We're not talking about something that somebody's bringing to her or something that hasn't happened yet. And I think the operative word there is a decision. And so for my parents to bring me someone, it takes a decision from me, in a sense, to say, here, this is the person you should marry, and then I actually go with it. Yeah, on some level, there might be some choice, because I could say no, but if it's strongly encouraged, and if that's the way that things are going now, like how it used to be, then where is my choice in the matter, right? Why am I staying in this relationship if I didn't even choose to be with you? So the risk of divorce may still be high if divorce is still an option.
Okay, I agree with the left side over here. I agree, and I agree with. I'm not quite there yet. I'm not quite there yet. However, this is what I do want to say. If your parents bring to you several people, now you may have the opportunity at that point to, hopefully your parents have then asked you, what are some of your likes? Do you want them tall, dark, and handsome? Do you want them a pudge, light skin, and curly hair? What about hazel eyes? You know, the whole list.
Mental
So
state.
when so when they bring this list before you, I mean, when you give them, if they're asking you and you're able to give them this information, then they go out and they're looking for some of the things that may interest you, then I might say I might be inclined to check out a couple of their options, but it's still not said that I'm going to go with that.
Can I jump in real quick? I know you're about to say something. To me, what you just presented sounds like an agent. You know what I mean? Like, so if I'm trying to be an actor, or if I'm trying to be a professional entertainer or a professional athlete, then I hire an agent. The agent gets to know me. They understand what I like and what I don't like. They want to know what my goals are, and then they go out and do all that groundwork, and then present me with these different options. Here's an audition. Here's an audition. Here's an audition here. I still have the choice of whether or not I'm going to go on these auditions, right? I still have the choice as to whether or not I'm going to receive these offers from these professional teams. But they don't take away my choice. They act as an agent, and they go forth with my permission to go out and find me a good deal, right? So that's what it sounded like.
So I think that, you know, I'm tell me if I'm wrong, Moses, but I think that's what a parent should be doing. A parent should be, like he said, like an agent. Know what their child's likes and dislikes are, and know what their child is interested in if they're going to be talking about a mate. I mean, because, you know, back in the day, they weren't just, I don't know how they did it. I know that they knew, okay, well, this person had to have land, they had to have animals and cattle, and they had to have something. Exactly. They had to have something in order for them to say, my daughter is going to go with them. Or you know, I have to have something if I had a son and they were, you know, somebody else was looking at my son to wed their daughter to. So, you know, I think that it's just important for us to, you know, incorporate, if we're going to do it, to incorporate our kids in that decision-making process, and not just try to put it on ourselves because our kids don't like what we like.
So let me dig a little deeper, right? Because all of you pretty much unanimously said you would get advice, right? So let's say the agent, the parent, agent daddy, right? Do that. Went out and grab a mate, and you're like, nope, 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 nope. And you said, well, Dad, while you were going out looking, I did find somebody, and I want to get your opinion. And he's like, you don't like none of these? Like, no, I like this. He looks up, down, has a few conversations, and went back and said, son, daughter, they look nice and all, but you're headed for trouble. A lot of the replies, especially if your emotions are in it, like they would push forward. You may push forward, you may not, but usually at that point, maybe your emotions are involved, you push forward. In my mind, I'm still vacillating. Why wouldn't we at that point, since we obviously value our agent or parents' thought, say, you know what? They said nah, so it's nah.
Well, in my opinion, I kind of think of it like, all right, keep it on the agent analogy, right? My agent like, hey man, you should go play for this team. And now I've been watching film on that team the whole season, and they bad. But it's like, but they gonna pay you, and it's like, but they bad. You know what I'm saying? It's like, but I like this team over here, and I'm gonna get paid, and I'm gonna play, and we good. We got a shot at the championship. And I've been in that situation where it's like, man, these individuals, their heads might bump. But me and this individual might have a better understanding for each other. You know what I mean? And that's just like different personalities. And that's why I'm thinking maybe the parent might say, nope, 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 nope to all these people because their personality is bumping heads with them. But I'm a different person. I'm not my parent. So it's kind of, we don't have the same ideas. We don't have the same views. So that's why I'm looking like, okay, I know what I like. So I might give you a shot. I might go talk to this person you set up, but for the most part, I'm going to pick and choose for me because this is who I'm in it for. Even though I love you, I got to worry about my mate is for me.
I feel like, and not being a parent yet, I had the privilege of teaching high school, so I interacted with a lot of young people in a great time in their life, from freshman to their senior year, going off to college. And I would say this, that when it comes to relationships such as these, or especially the looking forward to the marriage relationship, I question whether parents are preparing their children for that type of relationship, right? And granted, like, there may be a lot of parents out there who don't have experience in that type of relationship themselves, right? It's understandable. But to say, as a parent, I'm going to go out there and pick your mate, to me, questions whether or not you did your job raising that child in the first place. Because if you did your job raising that child, then your child should be able to go out with the same criteria that you were going to use and pick their mate, right?
That is brilliant. That is a great answer. But I do have a question, all right, for that answer. Just a question. You mentioned criteria. What criteria do you think a parent would use? And let's do it in this fashion. Let's say a Christian parent versus someone that's not a Christian parent. What criteria do you think they would use? And this is just for me curious.
Well, I can give you, like I said, personal experience. That's all I know, my personal experience. I've met a Christian parent, and they don't know I just left from, being at church. And it's like, you look like a hoodlum. And it's like, what? Like, what? Like, why do you think I look like that? You know what I'm saying? They go off from straight vision. They don't even get to that conversation or ask you a question, none of that. And it's just like, oh, you look like you are always in the streets, or you up to no good. And it's like, we the same skin color, so what you really saying? Like, you look like you up to no good. So it's some like you got people that criteria is always based off the cover of the book. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, I'm looking at this book and it look like you're not gonna be interested in it, and it's like, you ain't even opened it yet. So
It's like saying, okay, you know, when you were younger, your mom probably said, "Oh, she looks over and she sees a young man that you grew up with, and he's kind of nerdy, he's kind of geeky, and she feels as though that's the one you're supposed to be with because he's always here. You know what I'm saying? He's a good kid." But I just think that that's like an outer exterior that the parent is seeing, because you don't know what that child is doing after they leave these doors, and you only seeing what you see here at church. So how is that going to be good for me when you don't know the person totally to say, hey, this is the person I want for you to date? So if you're bringing somebody to me, I need you to know everything about this person: mental state, financial state, if he has his own house, car, does he have children? You want to know all of that because you don't want to get into a relationship that has baggage. That's the thing.
Well, I'm a talk from experience. In growing up, my parents did not, they didn't really like put barriers on who we could date. Like, as far as, they look at somebody and say, no, you can't date him. Or they didn't do that in life. They allowed us to have the opportunity of choice. They just definitely wanted to make sure that our state of mind was right, especially if we weren't group dating anymore. What have I given my child so that, they know how to go out and handle themselves appropriately? Not that it did any good, but I'm just saying. Because I have to be truthful here, it didn't always work. It didn't always work because, again, this is, and I have to say this, those of you that listen, you know your parents sent you out and you did some stuff that you wasn't supposed to do. And they thought that you had it all together when you walked out that door, and everything they taught you when you walked out that door, you left on the other side of that door. So I have to be real. We think that, like you said, we are supposed to be teaching our children, but how much of that we teach them really sticks in the early years? Because that's where it really matters, because that's where we have the teen pregnancy. That's where we have where we learn the abusive relationships, and we learn to accept those rather than saying, you had the wrong house for that.
He hit the nail on the head, though. He said there's a criteria we're supposed to be passing on.
It is.
So I'm trying to figure out what that criteria is.
And there should be a criteria, but how can a parent whose relationship has failed, how they going to tell you anything? I mean, let's be real. I think that's something that we should be looking at, because that is, in all honesty, I remember, and my father's dad, he's passed away now, so I could say this and probably say this and be okay with it, because he's gone. If he was here, I'd probably say, no, I better not say that, but he's dead and gone now. But anyways, he said something to me one day before I had my son, and I remember standing in his kitchen, and I remember saying to him, "You serious? Like, how you gonna tell me anything?" I was brazenly bold. I was real bold. I don't know what it got into me that day, but I felt like, yeah, man, I'm tired of you telling me what to do. Like, I'm sick and tired of this. I'm 25 now. Enough is enough. And I remember telling him, how you gonna tell me? How you gonna tell me? How you gonna tell me what to do? Have you taken a look at yourself? So when I think that when we talking about our kids as a parent, that criteria is important, but if your parent has not laid that foundation in their own lives, how are they going to be able to teach their children?
Well, everybody's mic went up. But go ahead.
That's right.
That's going by what you were saying in the pre-show, how sometimes if it's a single parent raising a child, they might be ashamed of the past relationship that they had. So, I mean, if I'm ashamed of my past relationship, how can I teach my child how to have a successful relationship? Because at the end of the day, she's not going to listen to me anyway, because she already knows that my relationship failed.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I'll,
Oh, because I was thinking like, it's that do as I say, not as I do type of mentality. Because I done seen, it's like, don't do this. And then now I'm with you. Like my dad, for example, I'm like, man, I'm with you. I was with you for a good little minute during this day. And you doing stuff you telling me 30 minutes ago not to do. So it's like, what type of criteria are you setting? It's like you got this this kind of mixed mindset on, hey, this is what I'm telling you. This is the good thing, but I'm in a role model role. So it's like, how I should be moving accordingly. So you see how it's done. So I think in a lot of parents, they miss that. They miss okay, I should show them how you do it. I should show them the action behind it. I should show them why it should be done this way instead of just saying it. And that's why it's going through one ear out the other, because it's always, all right, they said I should be a gentleman. What does that entail? I don't know what that. I mean, I probably watched a few movies or something.
Okay.
So now I know, okay, I can go learn something from a movie instead of you.
Right.
Now I know that my parent doesn't have this criteria to teach me anything, and that's the disconnect right there, as simple as that. So it's just, that's how I look at it. Like, it was more forced on, force fed. Like, okay, but I don't know how to do it. Yeah. My mom was always like, oh, y'all should know how to treat a lady. And it's like, all right. but like, I'm okay. I seen old boy over there open the car door for her, so I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna see if she like that. So it's,
That's real talk. I think, and back to this question about criteria. First of all, there needs to be an intentionality behind it, right? So if we are speaking on, we're living in a world where parents are going out there and finding mates for their children, then there's an intentionality of them going out, right? So they already have their criteria set. And my wife texted me, she was like, it's based on that parent's perception of that child, right? So it may differ from person to person as to what the criteria is, right? Based on, I think we might have even said it even in the pre-show, based on how that parent sees that child's needs, right? But I feel like it all still kind of boils down to this major point. My man said, and I'm paraphrasing him, how am I going to know what a gentleman is if I've never seen an example of a gentleman, right? I'm supposed to be treating women a certain way, but what that look like? Oh, I can learn it from a movie, all right? So when it comes to the marriage relationship, there has to be an intentionality about preparing our kids for that relationship. Now, we can't always see everything that's going to happen and try to avoid everything, but we can do our best to prepare that child in the same way, and I mentioned this in the pre-show, I don't believe that there were motor vehicle accidents before the invention of motor vehicles. But since the invention of motor vehicles, we understand that those are dangerous vehicles, and the people who drive them need to be properly trained. They need to be prepared to operate a motor vehicle. In the same way, we should approach that with our children and say, listen, the marriage relationship is serious, and I need to prepare you to be able to live and operate within that relationship. If we can do that, then, perhaps our children can make better choices as to who they're going to marry, because we would have been intentional about preparing them for this life that they might live one day.
I completely agree with you. And let me piggyback it up, and I'm done there. So, preparation by example, preparation by experience, from what I'm hearing from you guys. So there's a couple things with that. I completely agree with what he was saying. But the flip side is, yes, us as parents or people that are about to become parents, whatever it may be, we try to show in the home an example of how a relationship, especially a Christ-like relationship, should be. But there is some value in a single parent, a divorced parent, because it's like this. I was watching. I'm not the great investor. I don't really know how to invest. So I'm trying to watch these millionaires and billionaires and all these different people, how they do it. And I've seen all these different things on YouTube and all these social media and the news and from Tyler Perry to Warren Buffett to all these different folks. And how did you do it? What did you do? What do you think? Oh, well, how did you learn all this? I said, well, my best teacher, the most valuable, is failure. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, hold up, man. How's that do me any? What you talking about? Failure. Like, failure taught me hard what not to do. So the person that failed has a lot of information to give you on what not to do. Now, I'm not going to mention any names, but in Birmingham, Alabama, there's a person there, and there's plenty of people there. There was a person there that was in the church and got divorced 3 times. 3 times now. Not once, not twice, but 3 times on the 4th marriage. And one day we were talking, right? He came to me. He was like, Mo, I want to give you some, I was just getting newlywed. I want to give you some advice. He's like, man, don't be taking no advice from him. What's wrong with you? You taking advice from him? Man, you out your mind. He's like, no. So for some reason, it didn't dawn on me. I just ignored what they were saying. So I listened to him. And the man said, I asked some advice when it comes to marriage. Always pray with your wife and let her hear you praying for her as well. I promise you, that little advice, all I can say is it has really gone a long way. So, and that's just a small thing I'm telling you, but people that have failed can give you some sound advice. Yeah, there are people that are very successful. I don't think you will meet a successful person that has never failed. The Bible says the righteous man falls 7 times. So that's a lesson in of. So you're completely correct what you stated. But I'm gonna take the position as this, and I haven't come to a conclusion in my head. I'm just examining everything. There is something to be said about a parent's advice when it comes to picking your mate in a relationship, particularly a Christian parent. Whether they are a single Christian parent, whether they've been in a divorce several times, because I'm sure no one gets married to get divorced. A fool don't learn from his or her lesson. I'm just going to put it that way. A fool doesn't learn from him or her lesson. But again, there is some value in failure, and I'm vacillating, giving the percentage of divorce rates and broken relationships in the church. I don't care if you're Adventist, Baptist, Catholic, Mormon, whatever. Giving the high divorce rate and giving the practice of how we go about looking for a companion, it is the same across all the spectrums, white, blacks, well, not all the spectrums. Some still do get arranged marriage. But as far as religious-wise, I think there is something there missing. And haven't got my finger on it, but there's something there missing. And I think it has something to do with parental involvement in who we select.
That's interesting. I do agree when we talk about that a person who has failed has a lot of good information to give. I don't disagree with that. It's the information that they're giving, the type of information that they give to you, because you can take some of it and you can say, no, that's not really that great. And then, like what the gentleman said to you, was to pray with your wife and let her hear you praying for her. I mean, those are powerful words. If somebody had told me that a long time ago, I probably would still be married today. Y'all hear that out there? Probably still be married. I didn't get that. Didn't nobody tell me that. You see what I'm saying? So nobody told me certain things, And I'm not saying that that's their fault because they didn't tell me. It was probably my fault because I didn't go in search of it. And I think that's a lot of times we don't go in search of things. We don't go into a relationship asking the questions of what's your family history? Do y'all have mental health issues going on? What's the divorce rate in your family? you know, that we don't ask those questions. We don't ask personal questions like, what did you break lately? And why did you break it?
So what are we doing?
We are out there. We're dating.
What you mean date?
Well,
I don't understand that.
we're doing what we think we're supposed to be doing. I mean, again, what examples have we really seen? You know what I'm saying? Like, and I grew up, both my parents, they're still married to this day, loving relationship. They travel around, they do marriage workshops and all these different things. But they never really sat me down and talked to me about marriage. You know what I mean? Like, they showed me what a good marriage could look like, or what a decent marriage could look like, and how it can grow and improve.
The key things that you needed to
Right.
make it
We
actually
never
work.
had those conversations. And so, again, it goes back to that intentionality. So we're doing what we think we should be doing. We're doing what we see it on TV, or we're doing what's a young lady just texted me. I got a lifelines over here. So she was like, sometimes you just gotta, you emulate the people that are around you, right? The example that you gave, was that your father that pulled you to the side and gave you that advice? Again, it was somebody that was around you, and he pulled you to the side. And sometimes we have those experiences, but
And even though he was divorced, not once, three times. Wow. But it was good information. It was solid.
Like with that, like I think, because you say the people that give you advice and like the things going around you, like even in my life, I see, and it's like, okay, y'all been married for like 50 years, but I ain't never seen you have a smile on your face. It's like you look sad, man. And then I go ask you, and it's, man, I love my wife. And it's like, oh, why you love her? What y'all do? And it's like, man, like, can't give me no like story or no anecdote, or give me a little advice. And it's like, it's always something.
You caught him on the wrong day.
Yeah, but it's like, and it's always something like, just listen, be quiet, or don't ask no questions, just do what she say. And it's like, I don't think y'all lasted 50 years just doing that, but I wouldn't know.
Can I add something real quick? I
Go.
think we're about to move on. But I would throw this question out there, like, where do we go from here? Like, what is this? How do we turn this thing around so that those who are coming up, who are thinking about getting married, how do we help prepare them for this marriage relationship? What kind of things, if they're in a situation where maybe their parents don't meet the criteria, or maybe their parents aren't helping them out, but we've been in relationships that have failed or that are successful, do we feel like we can pull them to the side and say, hey, let's talk about marriage. Let's talk about,
Are we talking about people that are dating or people that are about to get married?
both, any situation. I mean, the original question was about parents choosing a mate for their child, right? So now if we have somebody who's getting ready to go to college, college is a hotbed for matchmaking. Or we have somebody who's in a dating relationship and they might be serious about getting married. Like where do we turn that corner? Because let's face it, there is an attack on the family, a satanic attack on the family, and I believe that's the reason why you have that distance between parents and them getting involved with their children's relationships. There's just a breakdown of our communities, and we just don't talk like maybe they used to talk to 50, 60 years ago. You know what I mean? So what do we do?
That's a really good question. I at least popped in my mind is there's two different perspectives. There is, for your question, there is those individuals that have parents, and I'm gonna say whether in and out of church, for have parents, and there's a situation for those that don't have parents or parental guardianship that they can go to, and the flip side is whether you're dating or versus looking for marriage. If you have parents you can go to, I would not wait for your parent to initiate the conversation of dating, marriage, et cetera, et cetera. I want to tell you like this. Parents sometimes are waiting for the right time, and they're in their mind it may be when you're 20-something, or they're just not uncomfortable. They don't know how to engage the conversation. Go to them and start asking questions. Not just one time on a Monday. Ask them on a Monday, and a Tuesday, a Wednesday. Keep asking them. For those that have the parental guardian they can go to. On the flip side, there are some that have parents that don't feel like they can go to their parents. What then? I would look for someone that you can speak to, that you feel comfortable speaking to, whether it's I hesitate to say friend because, man, that I don't want to say that and you guys go talk to the wrong friend. So I'm gonna recommend someone in the church that you can trust. But before you do that, I would still approach even though you feel you can't talk to your parent, I would still approach your parent, even though more than once. Give them more than one chance, because the devil is working behind the scenes, knowing you're gonna, after you hear this, you're gonna go talk to them, and he's gonna set something up where it's a bad timing or whatever else, and you're like, oh, I tried to talk to them, not doing it again. Give them at least 2 times, right? Go talk to that parent you feel you can't talk to. As far as, I'm going to leave it where you guys can answer, as far as marriage, and if you're involved in somebody or about to be involved with somebody you think it's going to go the long run, start premarital counseling. When I say premarital counseling, I'm not talking about counseling that you do when you're in trouble. Premarital, that means everything is going fine, great. You're asking questions that you said we should look into, mental health, how are you with money, etc. It is absolutely critical because stuff comes out when there's a third party that you're not aware of, and you thought everything was down. So fine and dandy. I would definitely do that. For those that are dating in college, I'm going to sidestep that one. That's a difficult one for me to answer. I went to a college. I wasn't looking for anybody, so it was, and I didn't expect what you just stated. College is the hotbed for dating. My college, I mean, it was the land of milk and honeys. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect that. So I am going to defer to the rest of the panel. But it worked out for me, so I'll let them.
What I would say for somebody that's in college is move slow, because you're going to run into a lot of people. You're going to run into a lot of people. Some people are going to even approach you, but they may be approaching you with the wrong thing in mind. I think last time we were here, we talked about that thug guy, that hard person who wants to, the bad boy, who believes that he needs a relationship too. And I think Pastor Matthews told us we're going to take that talk about Jesus and that track, and we're going to throw it at him, and we're going to turn around and run. That's some good advice. The reason why I say that is because if you stay too long, then you are caught up in that game that they are playing, and 9 times out of 10, it's a game that you've never played before. And in playing it, you are bound to lose. I don't think that you should be looking, especially as a young lady, I don't think you should be looking for anybody except for looking for Jesus Christ, because when you find yourself, and when you find yourself, you know that you have already found Jesus, because when you find Jesus and you put time into him, then your focus is totally different. And I think that, when you're in school, it needs to be like you said earlier. It needs to be about the books, because books and boys, the 3 B's, the books, boys don't blend. So what I'm asking everybody to do right now, if you're out there listening to us, and even the ones on the panel, if you have your phone, I don't know if everybody here knows what their love language is. Yes, I want you to take your phone, and I want you to go onto your phone, and I want you to look up love languages. That's what I want you to Google, the 5 love languages, and look for the 5 love language quiz. I want you to take a few minutes. And I want you to do that. Now, while you're doing that, again, it's the 5 love language quiz. Are we doing single, a couple? if you are married, then you're going to do couples. If you are single, you're going to do single. If you are a teen out there, you're going to do the one that says teen. It's a variety of them. So you want to choose the one that's relevant to you. Well, I did mine. Last night. And I learned some really interesting things about me. I probably would say some time ago my love language, because it was based upon touch. But now my love language is based upon quality time. I don't know if that has to do with age or whatnot, but I guess because it's a more mature state of mind now, and you actually answer these questions based upon how you feel. So if you're feeling a certain way at a certain time when you answer this, I think that's when it plays a part. So it's going to give you, at the end, the 5 love languages with your percentages on each one and where it falls. So I want you to take a few minutes to do that while we get ready to talk about submit and surrender. And while we do that, I want to go and give you a little bit of information. Surrender is willful acceptance and yielding to a dominating force and their will. We said that, hold on just a second. We said here, I have to pull this back up on my phone. I want to make sure I do this right. Bear with me. Submission is an act that is expressed mutually and voluntarily. Being submissive helps us to be less self-centered and allows us to consider the desires of others. So I want you, while you are working on your 5 love languages, I also want you to start thinking and start processing the direction we're getting ready to head into, submit versus surrender. Because to me, I would think that I could probably say them in the same sentence and they just mean the same thing.
Those are fighting words.
The what now?
Those are fighting words.
Oh, yeah. But some people say they're different. So the panel, while you're working on that, I want you to also be thinking about submit first versus surrender, because this is, to me, is a good one. If you're ready to go with the answering of this, shouldn't take you too long to finish that up.
With the answer about surrendering and submitting, well, in my opinion, I think, like, when I hear surrender, it sounds more abrasive. You know what I'm saying? Like, we fighting, and you got me in a chokehold, and I'm close to death, and I'm tapping out, and I'm like, all right, I surrender. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, it's that amount of force that you push on me. Now, submit is kind of like, all right, I see your point. I hear what you're saying. You give me good information. And you're saying, like, yeah, you should go this way. And it's like, okay, I see you that way. I see what's going on over there. I see what y'all doing. I see what y'all can accomplish. I see your potential. So it's like, okay, I can go along with that. I have no issue without being, I don't need to be the leader. I don't need to be so heavily involved. It's all right if I just get in line in line, and I can go with this. And that's just how I look at it.
So I've been married long enough where it's best to get clarification on what you mean. I'm not going to make no assumptions with that phrase. So when you say submit or surrender, what context do you mean? Please elaborate.
In a relationship, whether it be to God or to man. And the reason why I say that is because in my head, when I hear the word, God asks us to surrender ourselves to him. To me, that is, it goes along with the verse that says that we should die daily. We're giving up ourselves for a greater cause, for a greater moment. When we submit to something, it is, the dictionary says it's a voluntary act. But I think that surrender is also a voluntary act, because I can surrender myself. I believe that it's voluntary, because I could choose not to surrender myself to something. So to me, submit and surrender go hand in hand. But again, you have people that are saying that those words cannot be synonymous with one another and should not be used in the same context with one another. So what I want to know is, what does everyone think? Because when we talk about, say, a man and a male and a female, when they are married, the Bible tells the woman that we should not surrender but submit ourselves to our husband. And in doing so, the husband is not to take advantage of that, because if he does, then blessings will not fall upon them because of that. So my thing is this: what's the difference? I want to know what do people believe is the difference, if you think there is a difference.
Like I think, like I say again, like the difference for me is that intensity. It's kind of like, say in a relationship, like you're being abused, or like not even physically, just like verbally, or somebody's like gaslighting you, and like you get to that point, you like, okay, like they're right. I'm gonna just go with whatever they say. I'm do whatever they want. I'm not gonna ask any more questions. That's like surrendering yourself to them. You know what I'm saying? Now, like, say you have a conversation with your spouse or your significant other, and like I said, I won't say persuade because that doesn't sound too good, but like you get them to understand your viewpoint on something, and it's like, okay, I can see how he's writing that, and I think, like, you don't submit your whole life. You can, like, submit to a situation. You can submit to something that's going on in a relationship. Like, hey, we went on vacation with your family, or we went to your family house for 3 Thanksgivings. And it's like, can we go to my family, you know what I'm saying, one time? And it's like, y'all both know y'all family. They side of the family not too hot. It might be a mess when y'all get there. But it's like, all right, we can come to this understanding. You wanted to choose this. I can submit to your choice. I can submit to your choice. It's not like, we going to my house for Thanksgiving. We going to my grandma's house. Like, that's surrendering, in my opinion. Like, if you're not going to grandma's house with me, it's going to be some consequences. Like, that's how I look at it in that perspective.
We can't hear you.
I agree with Kareem totally.
So is there a difference between? So what is the difference between this word submit and surrender? Because that's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
Like she said, I think it's like I can't think when I don't hear surrender in a positive term. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I hear surrender, I think of like military warfare, like the enemy has surrendered, or like, oh, we were in a fighting match, you surrendered. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you lost this game, you quit, you surrendered. So it's kind of, that's how you can maybe give me a positive way of looking at it, but from my perspective, it's kind of like, yeah, I don't think it's always like she said, an overwhelming force making you do something. So, like, submitting is, okay, I understand, I can go with it. That's how I'm looking at it. Surrendering is like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. I'm going with it. I'm done. I'm over it.
Real quick, just for a point of clarification, Michelle, you pointed out how the Bible talks about, within the marriage relationship, wives submitting to their husbands. So just putting that even in context, before that very famously used verse to kind of put wives in their place, the Bible says submit to one another, right, out of reverence for God or out of reverence for Christ. And so both partners are encouraged to submit to one another. And then Paul goes on to describe what that looks like, right? So telling wives to submit to their husbands, using the same word submit again, and then kind of breaking it down as to why. But then when he gets to the husbands, he tells the husbands what submission looks like, right? Husbands, love your wives, right, as Christ has loved the church, right? So that's what submission looks like for the husband. And I believe that he had to, because it was a very male-dominated society, as we, even experience to this day, a sense of male dominance even in our society. And And because of that, oftentimes submission, the word submission is meant as surrender when people try to exert it, right? In other words, I'm stronger than you, I'm more dominant than you, I am in charge, I am the authority. I really don't care what you have to say or what you have to think. Whatever you feel, you need to just lay it all down and surrender to my will. Give it all up. You have no power, you have no control. That's kind of the sentiment that's given with surrender, right? Which is why it's apropos in our relationship with God, because that makes sense. When we look at God, we have no power, right? We are very small, and so when it comes to that relationship with God, in order to experience salvation, it requires that we surrender, right? It requires that we give it all up and say, God, I got no power here. I have nothing. I'm choosing you, right? I tried it my way and it ain't work. Submission, now, on the other hand, it lends itself to the idea that we're on the same level, right? We are equals. We are equals here. Let's bring it all to the meeting table and discuss this thing. And okay, your idea makes a little bit more sense, or they equally make sense. But I'm going to choose to go with your family this time. You know, let's go with your family. That's a compromise. Let's go with your folks this time. I'll submit my idea to yours, and let's work out a plan. So, submission should relay a sentiment of equality, and even in that sentiment of equality, one's opinion is received for that moment, right? I have said, you know what, that's good. I will relinquish my idea right now, and we'll come back to it another time. That's kind of.
Can we rewind what he said and play it again? We can't do that. Well, then what he said, what he said, that is perfect. That's exactly. I'm 100% agreement. So and to what you said, yeah, a lot of times that's why words are very important. A lot of times we need to look at the wording of things, understand the definition of things, because there is a difference. A connotation of surrender is I'm surrendering because I can't do anymore. I cannot win with the power that I have. So I surrender. I'm giving up because you have overpowered me. While submit means I'm yielding because it's voluntary. I'm yielding because I care, I love, or whatever. And I'm talking in the context of a relationship. So he hit the nail on the head. I don't need to say anything else. I'm just battling on that.
I want to put a spin to this because I just want to, I don't know. I was sitting here and I was listening. I listened to Kareem here on one side, then I listened to Pascal on this side over here, and I'm saying to myself, man, like in a relationship, I don't want to be too heavy for our viewers that are underage, and so I want to make sure I say this without being too explicit. In a moment of the male-female relationship, the intimate relationship, there is a point where there can be, let me just say that, I won't say there can be a point of surrender. And if, I don't know, maybe I'm thinking, I won't hit that. I won't hit it. I won't go there. I changed my mind, I'm sorry. I won't hit that because I think it's going to be too much for some of our younger listeners.
That's a grown
that may
folk
be
conversation right there.
Yeah, and I don't want to give anybody, children, anything that they don't really need at this time. Exactly. They'll be
Parents,
saying,
just
I heard that
prepare
from
your
Miss Sherry.
kids for the
She
marriage
said it, and
relationship.
Pastor let her come on the air with that foolishness. And so with that being said, I will move from that. So I'm gonna ask this next question. Did everybody complete their 5 love languages? Okay. So we're gonna go from right side to left, and we're gonna work our way around.
I didn't finish mine yet.
Uh-oh. So we're gonna start did you finish yours, Reem? Okay. Okay, so tell us, where'd you fall
So
at?
we got the one with the percentages, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Circle.
I got physical touch 37, receiving gifts 3. Oh, physical touch 37, receiving gifts 3, acts of service 17, words of affirmation 17, and quality time 27.
Okay. All right, what about you? Yeah, just give us the percentages.
Okay, words of affirmation, I had 30%. Receiving gifts, 7. Physical touch, 17. Acts of service, 20. Quality time, 27.
Okay.
All right. I have physical touch, 37. Acts of service, 3%. Receiving gifts, 10%. Quality time, 17. And words of affirmation, 33.
I'm just slow, huh? I mean, I'm on that
Xavier,
old-fashioned
what'd you
bus
say
they
your
used to
first
talk
one was?
about. Let me
Words of affirmation.
Oh man,
Let me see your thing. I just want to look at that.
how many questions was on this thing?
It
Been a lot of
depends
questions.
on how you answer them. Yeah, I think my second one was acts of service. I think my first one was like 37, which was quality
There we go.
time, and then the acts of service
Yeah.
was the
Yeah.
second one. I want to know that somebody got my back.
Woo!
Uh-oh, where you at? You
Man, it's
over
gonna
there?
let me look bad. I can't say. All right, so I guess it is what it is. Let me. You went all the way to. Okay, so acts of service, 40%. Woo! Oh man, I hope my wife is not watching. Receiving gifts, 7%. That's yeah. Words of affirmation, 10%. Physical touch, 13%. That can't be right. I like the touches and stuff. Quality time, 30%. So it's split between quality time and acts of service. Receiving gifts is the last one. I know my touch is low.
What you said
man.
now?
Look, I hope she's not touching.
My physical touch was kind of low, but
I was
guess it's
feeling
about
rushed
the
though.
way
I was
you
feeling rushed.
answered the questions.
Yeah, and when you think about it, it's not necessarily about that you don't like these things or that you don't prefer these things. It's really about how you show your love, right? And how you prefer to receive it.
See, I like that guy. Invite him back. I like that guy. So that's a good way to. So acts of services. That's how I show my love too. I know that for a fact. I'm not a wordy guy and
Fix
stuff
it.
like that. I do like that feeling, but that's. I like you.
You just helped him out, right? You really helped him out. He needed that clarity. Okay, so let's look at a couple of questions. There's a song we were supposed to look at it last time. I don't know how many of you all have heard. There was a song by Luther that he sang. If you can't be with the one you love, love the one you with.
He surrendered.
Okay, what's that now?
He surrendered.
So, what does that mean? What does that mean to you? Do you agree with that? What does that mean? Do you support that theory? And how does that relate to God? And do we have that towards God? Like if you can't love the one, if you can't be with the one you love the one you with.
I think to me it sounds like making the best of the situation you in. Yeah, and it's not like it's always a bad situation because you could like that seems to me like it's the one that got away. You couldn't love her, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, okay, you moved on, and now.
But then what about the person that you're with You see what I'm saying? It's like you're falsely loving me. You're just loving me because you're with me, but you're really in love with the one who got away.
So
Right.
hold on, wait. So how are you with the person in the first place?
Oh,
'Cause it was like-
No,
because.
if you're with the person, I mean, what brought you together in the first place? Is you lost me on
Right.
that one.
Well,
I'm
let me say this. Your parents chose them. For you. There you go. Right there. Your parents chose them for you. So that goes back to our beginning. Your parents chose them.
And you know what? I was just reading over the lyrics of the song. And well, I know,
find it.
but you talking about what does it mean and what do you agree with it? But I think there's also the sentiment of, and this is where you gotta be careful. There's the side of the one that got away, right? And you still have some feelings for that person that got away, but then there's almost a sentiment that you're already with someone and you meet somebody new. You know what I mean? And maybe it's a coworker, maybe somebody at school, maybe it's, whatever, and you start to develop affection or feelings for that person. And if you can't be with that person, might as well just love this one right here. You know what I mean?
That's a trick of the devil.
Right.
Grass is always greener on the other side.
But let me ask this question. Does that not go back to what we talked about the other week when we were talking about falling in and out of love? Like, can you just stop loving somebody that you've been with because you met somebody else new?
That's when we go back to the definition of love.
Exactly.
The emotional aspect of it is what the world says. Like we said last week, love is an emotion.
Mm-hmm.
That's fickle.
Cause that's a good word.
Like the wind.
Cause I think like I was I'm a little young. High school isn't too far in the past, so I was explaining to my homeboys like, bro, you used to like that girl because you was in first through fifth period with her. Like that was put it simple, it was convenience. You used to see her every day. So it's like now you got a car, you can go out of town, and you're willing to do this a long distance relationship because you can go travel these miles to this person, and it's just like that convenience thing at work, and it's like maybe like not trying to talk bad about anybody. It's like she looking a little cuter every day I come in here, and it's like okay, like I'm starting to like her. I like how she do these things, but you go the first time out of work with her, and you like, oh no, like this how you carry yourself in public, or this is how you, and it's like okay, you right back out of love.
Outer exterior is what you're looking at, what you see.
Right.
When you get to know that person, know their personality and stuff like that, and you get turned off. And sometimes, people get into relationships. You've been in a relationship with a person for so long, you get comfortable. That's just who I know, and I might love somebody else, but this is my comfort zone, and I'm just gonna stay here just because it's comfortable for me.
I was gonna say you got to watch out for fool's gold also. You know what I mean? Like you mess around, you get into this thing, next thing you know, your skin turn green. So you got to check your own feelings. Is this really love or is this infatuation? Is this lust? You know what I mean? Those are things you really got to take in consideration. Like he pointed out, the idea of love being an emotion is very fickle. And what does the Bible say about what real love is? First of all, it defines love as God. God is love. But then it tells us how to love. Right? There's no greater love than this, than one who would lay down his life for a friend. Like, love is a very extreme way of life. Yes. You know what I mean? And it's more than just an emotional response to somebody that you see or you hang out with from time to time. And so we got to really take those things into account before we really act.
Can I give a brief example? I think every time I've been up here, I've told a story. First time was the basketball story. Second time was the unequally yoked story. So I want to give a brief story. I can't give the whole thing because obviously my wife is definitely watching because she just texted me, so that's part of my story. My 5 love language, right? It was 40% active service. Apparently my wife was doing it as well. She just texted me a screenshot of hers. Her acts of service, she's 37%.
Oh, wow.
So that's pretty compatible. Her receiving gifts is 10%. Mine was 7%. Wow. Physical touch was 13%. I think mine was as well. Words of affirmation was 13%. Quality time is 27%. Mine was 30%. So we're really pretty much compatible, except for maybe 1 to 3% difference on certain things. And it brings me back to my father. And I'm not going to tell this story because she don't like when I tell that story. But we were dating in college, just beginning to date, maybe a few months, let's say 6, 7 months. And my dad used to see her come visit, and he would watch like a hawk. And one day he pulled me to the side. Mo, come here, boy. Come here, boy. See that girl right there? Let me tell you something about this girl. And I'm not going to go into the details, sweetheart. But because he hates when I said, that girl, she's going to do X, Y, and Z. I'm like, how you telling me all that? I'm just telling you. That's going to be valuable if you marry and when you marry her. I'm telling you. She has some slight difference from your mom. Love your mom, but she has some slight difference. That's how you say. And she said, that girl, just watch. Lo and behold, what he said came to fruition. Point blank. And now I'm even getting confirmation of how compatible. So again, I'm not saying all the time. You hear exactly what you said about love. But there's something to be said, especially when particularly my parents were in the church, about a Christian parents. And my father wasn't always easy to talk to because he was gruff a lot of times. But there's something to be said about holding a heavy weight of what your parents advise you when it comes to a relationship, because they've been where you were and they can now see the value in things where you probably currently can't, or you can't see it in its totality. So I'm going to say this again because if my wife is watching, my 14-year-old daughter is watching as well. So I'm going to say this to the entire crowd out there on the internet. Hopefully I remember this quote correctly. One of the greatest challenges of this world is knowing enough about a subject to think you're right, but not enough about the subject to know you're wrong. So keep that in mind.
May I
Yes, you can. Go.
on again the song "Love the One You're With." If you can't be with the one you love the one you're with. Forget that. If you're with the one, loving the one you're with is serious, regardless of if you can't be with the one you love. Love the person that you have committed to. And my man said something that reminded me of how I really view these love languages. He said, looking at his percentages and his wife's, and he saw how compatible they were. I think my wife and I are so different on our list, but that doesn't mean our relationship isn't working. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to be 14 years this December. And so for us, what it takes is a different approach, right? So imagine you really want to be in a relationship with this person, but they're deaf. All they know is sign language. What are you going to do? You're going to learn some sign language, right? If that person speaks French and no English, what are you going to do? You're going to learn some French, right? Because you really want to be in a relationship with that person. And it's the same with these love languages. I really want to be in a relationship with her, and quality time is so low on my list, but it's so high on hers. Like, I didn't even have to look at percentage. I already know.
Would
her
that
thing
be
is quality
submitting?
time, right? So I got to learn to speak that love language and not just depend on her to speak mine all the time. You know what I mean? And I think that's where the breakdown of so many relationships come into play, when people expect the other person to just speak their love language and they don't make any effort to learn the other person's language. You better learn to be bilingual or multilingual with this when it comes to love if you want that relationship to work.
Would you categorize that as submitting?
Yes, absolutely. Again, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. What did Jesus do? He literally became one of us. He had to learn how to become human, how to be a human in order to save us, in order to bring us into a relationship with him and to be in a relationship with us. He had to literally do those things.
Because he met us where we were.
See?
I said he meets us right where we are.
Exactly.
So he comes to us and he speaks the language that we understand in order to draw us closer to him.
Exactly.
We're gonna ask a couple of one more question. I think that should take us into our close. Has our love affair with wanting that love relationship with the opposite sex, has it at times dimmed our vision of Jesus Christ? Has our love affair with wanting the love relationship with the opposite sex dimmed our vision, of Jesus Christ? Well,
Oh.
I don't see nobody want to answer.
Oh,
that.
I was like saying like not growing up in the church and not we used to go to church, but it was nothing serious. It was like sit here, be quiet, grown folk talking type deal, not learning nothing. So it was kind of like I had this person that was like, and I was a boy, I was young and dumb, and I was like, whatever she said, go. All I know is she looked good, so I want to hold her hand, my physical, love language. So it's just like she would say things like, oh, this and that, the Bible is this, and church is brainwashing and all this stuff. So I'm just like, yeah, like we gonna hold hands in class, like, yeah, that's cool, like, but it's like, and that was me, at a younger stage before I knew like the little I do now. It's like, man, like she was way off. She was like way off. Like I seen the Lord work now still at a young age. It's like I know what He can do. I know what prayer does. I've seen prayer. You know what I'm saying? You come pray at night and you wake up to something you didn't even see coming. So it's just like I know that light is way brighter than what she was talking about back then. How she was putting it, and it's just like that. And then now it's just people are like shocked when I tell them. I was telling one of my friends from high school yesterday. I was like, man, I'm at the church like all the time. And she's like, what church? Like, what? You go to church? And I'm like, yeah, I go to church now. And she's like, oh, that's good. I'm getting hip to it. That was nasty, hip. But I'm getting I'm cool with it. I'm like, I actually enjoy, being in that light, walking with Christ, It's cool. It's cool.
Anybody else?
So, repeat that question one more time.
I got to go back. Let me flip back. Has your love affair with wanting that love relationship with the opposite sex dimmed your vision of Jesus Christ?
Yeah, so I'm trying to make sure I have an understanding of that question. So,
Well, while he's thinking on that, I'm gonna say yes. At one point in my life, it did.
what do you mean?
And what I mean is, in my dating, I allowed that wanting to have someone, that wanting to be in that relationship with someone, I let that be my sole focus. I had on those, you know how you put the little thing on the doggy, and all he can see is straight ahead. He can't see to the side of him.
Blinders.
That was me all day long, because, like I said, my love language changed as I got older because I matured in my thinking. And so therefore, the way I answered these questions some years ago does not match with how I answer them now, because my relationship with Jesus is different. So I think that when I was dating and I was looking for a relationship, and I wanted that so much so that nothing about God really interests me. I was coming here sitting in the church. My parents talked to me about church. I could talk to people about church, but I was missing the relationship with Jesus Christ, which if I had that in my life, then the relationship, that physical relationship that I was looking for, probably would have been a lot more meaningful. It may have lasted longer. It would be still in place to this day. But because my vision was blurred and I could only see one thing, nothing else around me really played a huge part. And Jesus Christ didn't play a huge part. Only what I could see played a part. And I think when I look at that, I probably say yes, it does. And we have to be careful when we talk about dating, we talk about finding that right mate. We have to be careful that if Christ is not at the forefront of that relationship, then it's not. 9 times out of 10, it's not gonna make it, because we have our sights set on the wrong thing.
So help me out with that question a little bit then. So I'm thinking of twofold. The question as it pertains to looking for someone, or have found that, or found a person, and that relationship is dimming the relationship with Christ. Because The second portion I could answer, because I've been reading the Old Testament, trying to read it through again, and I'm picking up a lot of things. And I noticed with all the great people, from David to Solomon to Samson, and then people in between, as I would put it, the Bible warned them, do not give your daughters to, I'll put it this way, the pagan, and do not take their sons. Because that intermarriage, what it does is one will pull the other, whoever's stronger, from God. And it's usually the other, the non-believer, you should call it. Because in a relationship, and this can be in the church too, it's because you're born and raised in the church doesn't mean you're all striving to get to know God the same. So in the relationship, if you're both not looking for God, if one's pulling away, if one's doing the other thing, it will affect the other spouse. It will. That is what is presented before us. So, yes, I can see that in a relationship. Yes, that could become a huge struggle. Before that, looking for someone, could someone be so involved in looking for someone that they're not looking at Christ? I don't know how to answer that personally. I don't want to lead anybody astray because I wasn't in that.
Well, I think you
bucket.
can be, like Xavier was saying, you can be so consumed with either that one person or just be so consumed, say if physical touch is your top love language, you can be so consumed with wanting physical touch that's what you're looking for with every person you come in contact with. That destroys your vision, your view of relationship, period, because you get so wrapped up into that you forget that your first relationship, like we talked about, your father, your earthly father, and your heavenly father, if those two are doing the same thing and they're showing you by example, like we talked about that week before last, then you know that's what you're supposed to, that's good for you to follow. But if you are missing, if you've lacked something, and that's what you're running behind because that's what you've known and you've seen all your life, you may know God, you may have heard about him, but you don't actually know him, because the Bible says that when you talk about to know somebody, that means you're having an intimate relationship with them. And I think that same intimate relationship that you are trying to have with the opposite sex, you need to have that same intimate relationship with Jesus Christ, because without it, you're not going to get what your heart desires.
From my experience, in growing up in the church, aside from the family worships that we had, or as far as relationships go, aside from the family worships that we had, I don't think it ever occurred to me that Jesus had anything to do with the relationships I wanted to be in. You know what I mean? So I can't honestly say that my desire to be in a loving relationship dimmed my vision of Christ, because my life was so compartmentalized that he was separated from the relationships I wanted to be in. In fact, the types of relationships I want to be in, Jesus couldn't be a part of. If I'm being honest, right? So it wasn't until many failed relationships that I realized the need for Jesus to be a part of my relationship. So if anything, my desire to be in a loving relationship actually turned the lights on for Jesus, for my vision of Jesus. Because, again, the failed relationships that I had made me realize the need for Christ to be a part of them. Like I said, if anything, that desire is what illuminated Jesus in my life to be a part of those relationships. So it helped me more than hurt me.
So what I'm hearing overall for today's discussion, which has been a very good discussion, from if we should let our parents decide on our relationship or advise us on our relationship, or this I believe is the second question. Uh-oh. What was the second question again? Okay, or the second question, which is it's slipping me. The overall theme that I've been hearing is that the Lord's involvement, from picking a mate to knowing how to respond in a relationship. We have got to understand, or actually, and an example of how we should be in a relationship, how we should conduct ourselves, and who we should look for. I think what we should do, well, actually, I know what we should do, is understand God and God's love and God's viewpoint of love, which is different than what the world says love is. The world tells us what love is in music. It tells us what love is in movies. It tells us what love's in several different forms and fashion, but it's fickle. And that is why there's so much hurt in this world. This is why relationships fail in this world. And I don't just mean husband and wife relationships. I mean friendships. I mean partnerships, a lot of different things. And I think, all in all, we need to seek the Lord. Seek his wisdom when it comes to relationships. It's in his word. How we should, let me say it a different way. In the Bible, there's instructions on how to have a successful relationship, a loving relationship that is a safe place for you and that other individual. If we don't spend time digging through the word to find out what that is, how to perform the steps that he's outlined for us, we are courting, and we'll keep it a relationship, we'll be courting disaster. So I would definitely, it would definitely behoove us to search his word, to have conversations like this with other individuals, so we can have a clearer understanding of what those things are, so that we can impart them into our own relationships, into our own lives, so we can have a successful relationship, whether it's friendships, whether it's business partnerships, whether it's spousal, marriage relationships.
I want to say thank you to the panel again for coming out today and doing this once again. I thank the viewers who have been watching us today also. I encourage you to join us again on June 27th. You don't want to miss the panel discussion for that day. We are looking to have, excuse me, some people from our community come in, as well as some more young adults, as well as myself and Mr. Moses Percy over there, as we look into what is happening in our community, how the church plays a role, and what it is like to be a black man in today's society. So I'm asking you to make sure you join us on June the 27th at 4:30. You all take care, and thank you once again. Thank you once again.